Gobsmacked. Have you ever been gobsmacked? What in the world does it mean? And where does it come from? Answers straight ahead. This is your host, Stephen Carter, and I welcome you to this episode of History of Everyday Sayings. This show is for you if you're a logophile, a writer, a speaker, a philomath, or someone who simply loves history tidbits you can use to impress friends and family. Speaking of tidbits, each episode is short, it's bite-sized, for easy listening and recall. By listening, you're going to discover how phrases and words we use every day came to be. Let's dive into the meaning and origin of gobsmacked. During a conversation I was having with someone a few days ago, the individual commented, "I was gobsmacked when I heard about what was going on." After our conversation, I became curious about the origin of that word and whether the way we typically understand its meaning, is correct. Putting on my Sherlock Holmes deerstalker hat and cleaning carefully my large magnifying glass, I set off for the investigation. Like many word and phrase investigations, this one had its share of dead ends and false starts, but we'll begin at Merriam-Webster.com. Merriam-Webster tells us the word is an adjective. Gobsmacked is chiefly British, meaning overwhelmed with wonder, surprise, or shock, astounded. It goes on to say 1956 is the origin year for that definition. Recognizing we actually have two words combined here, I checked Merriam-Webster for the definition and origin of the word gob. Merriam-Webster offers a couple of definitions, one being sailor. In another source, I noticed the U.S. Navy banned the term in the 1920s as being derogatory. Perhaps that was done because other definitions and synonyms for gob mean lump, blob, chunk of something, a hunk of something slimy or yucky. None of these words are words we would want to associate with an American sailor. According to Merriam-Webster, the word gob extends back to the 14th century, so it obviously is quite an old word. According to Merriam-Webster, the history and etymology for smack, S-M-A-C-K, that extends back to Middle English from Old English, smike or smock, S-M-A-E-C. That is akin to Old High German smack, S-M-A-C, meaning taste, and probably to Lithuanian smagurus, meaning sweet tooth. As a verb, smack is akin to Middle Dutch smaken, meaning to strike. They have the first use of the word smack as occurring before the 12th century. Returning to the full word gobsmacked, in a Macmillan Dictionary Word of the Day blog, we're told, definition, extremely surprised. Origin and usage, written evidence for the adjective gobsmacked dates back as far as the 1930s, although it has a much longer history as spoken slang. The term is a compound of the words gob and smack. The word gob comes from the Irish and Scottish Gaelic word gob, G-O-B, meaning mouth or beak, and that extends back to at least the 16th century. They go on to say, although written examples of the word gobsmacked date from only the last 80 years or so, it is highly likely that the word was used in spoken language before that time. The word comes from the borderlands between Northern Ireland and Southern Scotland. It was later popularized by television dramas which were set in those areas, such as Boys from the Black Stuff and Coronation Street. Those programs grew to attract sizable mainstream followings, introducing the word gobsmacked into the wider world where it was picked up by newspapers and other media. In an article published in Christian Science Monitor by Melissa Moore, M-O-H-R, entitled Gobsmacked and Other Astonishing Words, she tells us gobsmacked was originally a British word, but has been making inroads into the U.S. since the 1980s, probably because it is so evocative and so much fun to say. It also encapsulates the way English often represents extreme surprise. In word after word, we are struck by things out of nowhere, and they rob us of our power of speech. She goes on to tell us the word is used now throughout the United Kingdom, and adds, my London-born mother-in-law has been known to say, shut your gobs to my children, jokingly, I'm sure. When you are smacked in the gob, you're going to stop gabbing, which, according to the author, is a related word. You are astounded, speechless, or incoherent with amazement, as the Oxford English Dictionary puts it. Going back to one of the two root words, gob, I'm sure you've heard the word gobble. Gobble is something turkeys do, and something we do to turkeys in the United States on Thanksgiving. Gobsmacked is such a fun word. Why not add it to your vocabulary and use it when the time is right? Few people know the origin of this word, but you can now count yourself among the minority of people who do. If you're curious about exploring more about this word, you'll find the references I used for this podcast episode. You'll find those references in the show notes. For more amazing history of everyday sayings, tasty auditory tidbits you can use to amaze friends and family, do subscribe for free where you get your podcast. If you would like to comment on this or any other episode, email me at cartermethod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Until our next visit, your host here, Stephen Carter, wishing you blessings in abundance.